at the Memorial Terrace entrance of the Forest Lawn Mausoleum. It's also called the Great Mausoleum. I've never been inside, so let's go in and see who all we can find. Just to the right, we have the Dolly Sisters. As you can see by the year of birth, they were twins. One sister died young. They made separate movies, but did appear on stage at the Ziegfeld Follies, making $2,000 per week. Interestingly, they make millions of dollars gambling, the upwards of $11 million. That's a whole lot of money. But the money was fronted by wealthy businessmen. Today we would call those guys sugar daddies. Liz Taylor's personal life was always in the news. It's been said that she enjoyed this. She was married 8 times to 7 men. She once owned a 1956 Lincoln Continental, special ordered it with the blue color to match her eyes. If you ever get some free time, I highly recommend to stop in the Great Mausoleum and see the Last Supper. It's very well done, breathtaking. You'll be surrounded by famous graves. We're at the grave of Gutzon Borglum. He's the mastermind behind Mount Rushmore in South Dakota and some other sculptures. Mount Rushmore project was started in 1927, finally done in 1941. You'd have to pay me a lot of money for me to hang off the edge of a mountain like this. The heads are 60 foot tall. The park gets about 2 million visitors per year. It's 5,725 feet above sea level. It faces the southeast for maximum sun exposure. They had to use dynamite in several areas to carve out the eyes and such. Borglum also sculptured the head of Abraham Lincoln from a 6-ton block of solid marble. Among other works, he sculptured General Philip Sheridan. There are several areas that's closed to the public in this mausoleum. I'm disappointed that I can't find a grave of the Wrigley brothers, Wrigley's Chewing Gum, but this area is called the Sanctuary of Trust. Just to the left, a few steps in, is a famous Hollywood couple. The final resting place of Clark Gable. He dies 1960, interred right next to his wife, Carole Lombard.
California, and a wedding in the West. Clark Gable and Carole Lombard returned from Kingman, Arizona as Mr. and Mrs. Clark Gable, and even a girl like this thinks he's wonderful. This news means a good many broken hearts all over the world. But stick to the man you've got, girls, even if he has got flat feet.
Carole dies in a plane crash 32 miles southwest from Las Vegas. The pilot crashes into Mount Potosi. The lights on top of the mountain, the beacon lights, were turned off because there was fear of a Japanese attack. Now we're at the final resting place of Red Skelton. I can still remember as a little guy watching the Red Skelton show on CBS. Seems like it was on Sunday evenings. He often would do a skit as a clown, Freddy the Freeloader. Some of you may remember. He also would travel coast to coast doing comedy stand-up routines.
Anyhow, I go into the hotel. Now, everybody has to walk up to the rooms. I start upstairs, and there's the first guy on the first flight of stairs, and he was so lit up you could read by him. No kidding. You brush against him, you get an alcohol rub. One of those. So I said to him, could I be of some assistance? He says, will you be so kind? He says, I live up on the 3rd floor, but I don't think I'm going to make it, you know. Well, I help him up 3 flights of stairs. I opened the door and I threw him in, walked downstairs. Here's another guy. He looked worse than the first one, see? So I said, where do you live? He says, I live up on the 3rd floor. Well, I threw him over my shoulder and I packed him up 3 flights of stairs. I opened the door and I throw him in, walked downstairs. Here's another guy, but just as I got him on his feet, he started hollering, help, please, help. The security officer came and said, what's the matter? The guy says, what's the matter? This darn fool's been packing me up 3 flights of stairs and throwing me down the elevator shaft.
Red Skelton painted artwork on the side as a relaxation and a hobby. His wife encourages him to sell his artwork. He ends up making $2.5 million per year. Next door neighbor is Sid Grauman. Stop by Grauman's Chinese Theater and check out the prints and the cement. It's worth the visit. I can't go past the gate, but in the back is Hollywood's original platinum blonde, Jean Harlow.
Mrs. Oliver Jordan. Just a minute.
Who's that on the telephone?
Mrs. Oliver Jordan wants to speak to you on the phone.
Who?
Mrs. Jordan.
Mrs. Oliver Jordan?
Yeah.
Holy cat! Hand me that telephone, you nitwit. Hello, Mrs. Jordan. Of course I remember you. I seen you at the races.
Mr. Jordan and I are giving a small dinner for Lord and Lady Ferncliff, 2 very dear friends of mine from England.
Gee, that sounds swell to me. Well, it's awful nice of you to ask us, Mrs. Jordan. We'll be glad to accept. Well, goodbye.
Our next stop is at the request of Jill, a major supporter and subscriber of the channel. This is Bobby Womack. His career spanned 60 years in multiple styles of music, including R&B, jazz, soul, rock and roll, doo-wop, and gospel. In 2009, he is inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Jill's also requested that we stop by and visit with Marilyn Wells, so we'll see if we can find her next. Marilyn Wells helped define the sound of Motown in the early 60s. She has hits with The One Who Really Loves You and the Grammy-nominated hit You Beat Me to the Punch. Her biggest hit was in 1964, her signature song, My Guy. Wells dies July the 26th, 1992, of cancer and pneumonia. She's right next to the sun. Thank you, Jill. Now we're in the Iris Terrace of the Mausoleum. There's a couple of famous graves I want to find here. The first is way up here at the top. I can just barely make out the name. This would be Hollywood actor Theodore LGE. He has a long career that lasted from 1920s through the 1950s. He appears in several Three Stooges shorts, the Colombian shorts, including Half-Wit's Holiday. This is a 1947 film where he bets Professor Quackenbush, that was played by Vernon Dent, that he can turn the boys into gentlemen. You may remember in a previous video we visited the gravesite of Three Stooge actor Vernon Dent. The clicking noise in the background is security letting me in this section of the Great Mausoleum. We're at the grave location of Jim Davis. You know him as Jock Ewing of Dallas. His first major role was in a Bette Davis movie, Winter Meeting. This came out in 1948. He would go on and make guest appearances on Death Valley Days, Perry Mason, and Gunsmoke. During season 4 of Dallas, Jim was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and many of the scenes he is shown seated due to being too weak. He dies on April the 26th, 1981, at the age of 71. Sadly, Tara, his daughter, dies in a car accident at the young age of 17. I guess I've worn out my welcome. Security's asked me to leave. This is the watchful eye. They frown upon videoing, I guess. But there's several more stops I wanted to make, but I guess we'll just have to tell their stories from the outside. Okay, I was just down in this section. That's the iris where Jim Davis is, and I wanted to make my way down through this building. There's James Arnaz and some others. I wanted to get to this area. You see in the video, there's a few graves I wanted to visit here. So we'll have to do them from the outside. I must admit it's quite awkward to stand outside to finish up this video, but in this area in the hallway, I think to the windows to the left is legendary actor W.C. Fields. To the right would be Joe Barbera. Now he's half of Hanna-Barbera. Comedian Ed Wynn. You can find some old YouTube videos with some of his comedy acts. Also Ben Turpin, a comedian, actor as well. Yogananda. Now, I really wanted to find his final resting place because he is the inventor of yoga. Thanks everybody for watching my video in the Great Mausoleum, Forest Lawn Memorial Park. We're in Glendale, California. I'm coming back tomorrow and filming Freedom Mausoleum, and that video will be up next Sunday. Everyone needs to be remembered.